Welcome to the Healing Our Politics podcast, the show that shows you how to heal our politics by starting with the human in the mirror. My name is Skippy Mesereau, coach, former elected official, and lifetime public servant. It is my job to sit down with the best thought leaders, coaches, therapists, authors, scientists, and more, and to take the best of what they have learned and translate it specifically for the public service experience. Warning, this is a post-partisan space. No policy, party, or partisanship here because well-being belongs to all of us. This show is about resourcing you and trusting you to make up your own damn mind about what to do with it and what's best for your community. So, as always, with love, here we go. Welcome to the Healing Our Politics podcast, the show that shows you, the heart-centered leader, how to heal our politics by starting with the human in the mirror. And today we have something deeply satisfying, at least for me, as I sit down, and it turns out lay down, with expert in bodywork and massage, Russell J. Pappas. Russell, or Russ, is a truly legendary bodyworker who integrates techniques of energy work, coaching, and ceremony into his practice. You've never had a massage like this. What Russ does to help the human form heal, relax, and realign and renew is simply unmatched. Russ has been practicing for over 2 decades and has formal training in over 12 modalities of massage, including but not limited to myofascial release, Shiatsu, trigger point therapy, neuromuscular techniques, and Rolfing. Russ does not disclose his roster of clients, but they do include CEOs, celebrities, and high net worth individuals. In this episode, we tried something a bit different. I actually underwent a session of treatment, recording the episode prior to and following the real life session to try to capture the essence and the presence of his work, translating it in a way that you can feel and intellectualize. And we covered a lot of ground, and oh, did it feel so good. We discussed the differences between massage and bodywork. What do these terms mean and when should we use them? What's the proper vernacular when searching for something? We break down the different traditions of massage. Which one do you want? When? For what reasons? What are their benefits and shortcomings? We break down costs, getting clear on what you want and what you value and how to choose a service based on that to receive the optimum application of each dollar for your intended needs and purpose. We talk about the importance of energetics in massage work, the characteristics of good body work, and how to choose the therapist for you, as well as techniques for evaluating their work, because ultimately, you just don't know what you just don't know. We discuss common body alignment issues like keyboard fingers from overwork at the office or camel neck from constantly craning down at your phone, and techniques you can use to combat these pain issues. We discuss the benefits of bodywork on overall well-being as well as job performance. And if you are in a position to care for your organization, EAPs, tax deductions, and other rules you can take advantage of to best support your team. So I hope you enjoy this satisfying, deep, rhythmic, and I'm back in the massage, and wide-ranging conversation with my friend, Russell J. Pappas.
Hi, and welcome to the Intimacy Hour. Wait, is it recording?
ABR, baby. Always be recording.
Got it.
So we're in the mobile studio. Where are we right now?
We are in Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan on the 58th floor overlooking the Hudson River. New York City, baby.
New York City, baby. And I'm going to say things that I can see from where I am include a helicopter in the sky, Hudson River, a entire snake skin, a custom brand of your initials. Russ, what's your middle name?
Jensen.
Jensen Pappas.
Russell Jensen Pappas.
Russell Jensen Pappas. A custom piece of art that has New York backdrops and the word conquer in big letters, a falcon's wing.
It's a bird's wing.
We're going to go with bird's wing.
That is a red-tailed hawk.
Okay.
Lauren was driving upstate and she just saw this lump on the side of the road, and she just drove on with her music, and she literally felt called to stop, turn around, and go back. And she went to go see what it was, and it was a red-tailed hawk. It had just gotten its wing clipped off by either traffic or something else. Yeah. And it was dead. Because of my lineage, I've been studying in Peru for 7 years, and I do have connection to Native American culture and history. And so using ceremony, we actually returned the bird to the ground, preserved the wing and then the talons, and then everything else we returned to the earth.
And I think that's a great demonstration of there are so many stories in this house. I'm literally surrounded by hundreds of items, each with a unique story, a specific placement, a intention for not just where it is, but why it is, which direction it's facing. And that's something that I really appreciate about you.
Yeah, thank you. I love that everything, the story behind it, it's the intentionality behind it. I'll tell you one more because I like stories, but the snake skin, our last trip to Peru, I went to an animal rescue center, and they talked about the poaching of animals for sale for tourism. And that really touched me because you don't think about it when you go down there, like how they're receiving these things. And what we found on our third day in the jungle, there was a tribe that invited us to their maloka, and they were blessing the maloka for, I think it was a process that took about, I want to say, a month to really like ceremonially create the maloka, the outdoor structure where they do ceremonies and displays and community meetings. So it's a dedicated building. But when they were building the maloka as a group, an anaconda came up, and they believe anacondas are there for protection, but they also believe that they're wild. If you meet an anaconda and they strike at you, it's the law of the jungle. You kill or be killed. And so they stabbed the anaconda and protected the maloka. And then they offered that to me as a gift our last trip down, just as a sign of protection for ceremony. And that was the trip to Peru that the jungle gave me permission to hold ceremonies in the States. I received that without asking, and it was demarcated by this the day before it happened.
I feel like I now understand why we get to have the door unlocked in New York City. It's because I'm being protected by the magical anaconda. I didn't know that, but I've been benefiting. So I just want to say thank you, Anaconda, for your service. It's been delightful. We've really enjoyed the feeling of security, which has been strong.
Beautiful. It's worked.
It's totally worked. So what are we going to do today?
Today, it's been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah.
What I love about the work we're going to step into is the bodywork component. I've been practicing for, 22 years now. And it's really just about taking care of your body and getting length and movement and breath into the stuck, tense areas.
What does bodywork actually mean to you? What does it encompass or not encompass?
Originally, I would call myself a massage therapist, and massage and bodywork feel very different. Massage, you feel more like it's the light, fluffy, the really relaxing treat. And it might just be you need to stretch your neck out, you need to move, you need some attention somewhere. It's not always easy. Sometimes it's really intense. Sometimes it's a lot of pressure. Sometimes, you get stuck areas that move. Bodywork is giving your body that time and attention with expertise.
Yes. And so someone who was just walking into a room blindly, who wasn't trained, might not notice the difference between the practices. Like walking in, it still looks like somebody on a table or a chair, hands on that person working with their body. But the distinction, as I hear you saying it, is one is sort of a base level, not to make a hierarchy out of it, but a lower speciality practice where it's really just having about hands on you. Maybe it's a bit more rote, where bodywork is really about the therapeutic application of touch. The healing application of touch requires a higher level of knowledge and ability to work with the person as they are, because everybody and everybody's needs on any given day is different. Whereas you might do the same massage every day to every person. Is that fair?
That's very fair. Massage really follows a flow, and it's about the flow. Bodywork is about what presents itself within the flow. And so, we might find a knot, and we could spend an hour and a half utilizing 6 different modalities to try to address that knot. Or not. Or not. Consent's very important. And so, as a practitioner, I would be very clear that was a K or an N.
Unfortunately, my spelling is trash.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't know. Can we try this in Hebrew? Is more differentiation?
You're going to have to teach me that one, but I can promise to check it. But yeah, the flow, the structure, it looks the same. Bodywork is really about the intentionality you're bringing to it, and then the awareness and skill set and tool set that you have with what presents itself.
Yeah.
Because I might be prepared to spend an hour and a half on that night, and it just might need a breath, and it was something that you just tweaked working out, or something that you weren't even aware of that was just a little tight.
Yeah. Just going to tease this a little bit, because we're going to go do that, and then we're going to come back. I imagine it's going to be the first episode where I sound like a drunk baby. This is it's very relaxing, invigorating. But I want to say, Russ is not, it's a safe space. Russ is not just any body worker. He's not just any massage therapist. He is exceptional at his craft. I was joking. You were talking about where you get body work the other day. And I just kind of reflected, and it was a joke, but it was also true. Like, it's probably really hard for you to get body work, because it's like Michael Jordan wanting to play one-on-one with someone. Like, it's always going to be a little easy and disappointing. Your response is actually great, because I think it reflects the degree of intentionality and thought you have behind things. What was your thought, if you'd share it?
Well, my response, I don't know, because I'm still in the ego tickle of that. My ego likes that.
I'll share it. Your response was, I used to have trouble getting massage because I found myself being in a critical mind, judging the masseuse or the body worker. And then I shifted to
being able to receive. I think it's really easy. It's easy to see, the time and attention and the energy that I've put into this craft.
Yeah.
And not everybody has put that time, effort, energy, and attention into the education, but they are still putting that time, energy, and attention and care into you.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, really opening myself up to receive that here's another human being, whether they have the same skills or not, or they probably have different ones. And I've actually found a lot of different skills in this way, to just receive that as the baseline, and then let them know if something's too much, if it doesn't feel good, if it isn't working for your body. It's still an active participation. But I go into receiving mode where I'm not trying to make them better. I'm just receiving the gift of the body work, because just having your muscles squeezed and having your body worked out just puts you in a different state of being.
And I really appreciate that. And I think that is a clear example of the difference between body work and massage, because before you've laid a hand on me, starting from yesterday, that bit of wisdom that you dropped has already increased the pleasure and the physical enjoyment in terms of healing that I will receive today. And even if you had never touched me, it would have improved every massage going forward, because I am as guilty as whomever else has this, of sitting on the table and being like, fuck, I really wish they would move up here. Are they going to go over there? I wonder what they're going to do. Man, I really hope they haven't. And I'm like in this like treadmill of what if thoughts, instead of just being there and being grateful and enjoying what is. So that will be my mission today, is
Can
just
I
to
give
enjoy.
You,
Oh,
can I give
please.
you one little cue, and this is just because it's an episode and I like dropping wisdom. One of the things I've learned is you can ask for things to be different.
Yeah.
But when it comes from, oh, that pressure feels good, or the rhythm or the pace, or you find something to acknowledge that feels good in what they're doing, it doesn't create a, hey, you're doing this wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I really like that rhythm that you have. Can we apply a little bit more pressure?
Mm-hmm.
Or can we slow down a little bit? That pressure's great.
Mm-hmm.
And then you finish with thank you, because if they make the adjustment, that's the gift.
I appreciate that. And what I would reflect is, just because I think others will probably relate to this, although I'm probably the craziest one on the bell curve, is I do feel comfortable speaking up. I will in a massage say, hey, I'd love more pressure. I'd love blood pressure. That hurt. This spot, could you be there a little longer? I'm happy to offer my feedback on what's being done, but I tend to hold my comment back on what's not being done. And the reason for that is I recognize I'm a control freak.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be the way I want it. I'm not a fucking massage therapist. I'm not a body worker. I don't know what's best. And so I want to trust them and see what they do, in the same way that I will go to a restaurant, and if I need to, I'll add some salt to a dish. But I don't sit down and say, chef, what I'd really like for you to make today is, but in keeping myself from sharing those things, I can get into that thought loop, which only hurts my own enjoyment.
Right.
If that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. And that's the demarcation for me that you need a massage.
So always.
because it is. It does disrupt the experience of it, because you're sitting there wanting 100%. To be somewhere other than where you are, instead of just creating the environment for it to either be okay no matter what shows up, or be specific, and then once you've made your specific ask, let it go.
Which is a totally transferable skill to life. And I recognize where I fall short in the things that I have the great pleasure and ability to teach others. We were in a cohort group last night for our coaching work, and we're working with exactly that, right? How do we get out of the stories we're telling ourselves about reality that are imposing pain on us in the moment and debilitating us from doing the work, to simply being with what is, as it is, high investment, and how that can improve our mental state, how that can improve our work quality, our performance, all of it. And so I will be the bridge here and say my work for the next ever number of minutes is simply to be with what is, and then we'll come back and see how it was.
Perfect. and my intention in the next however many minutes, hour and plus some, is to provide space and care and ease in your body, and to be really precise in delivering the right amount of pressure and the right stretch, and coaching you through breathing and staying out of your head.
I know from experience that it will be blissful and beneficial at the same time.
Perfect.
And now a quick break from our sponsors, and we'll be right back to the show. The Healing Our Politics podcast is brought to you by the Elected Leaders Collective, the first, leading, and most highly recognized name in mental health, well-being, and performance coaching for elected leaders and public servants, designed specifically for you. Now, don't be fooled by the name. The Elected Leaders Collective is not just for elected leaders. It is for all public servants, staffers, volunteers, government, nonprofit, whole organizations. This is for you. If you are filled with passion for improving your community and world, but are tired, as I am, of the anger, stress, and vitriol, if you find yourself banging your head against that same wall, struggling with the incoming criticism and threats, arguing with colleagues who are supposed to be on your team, and questioning if it's even worth it anymore, then the Elected Leaders Collective programming is specifically for you. With the Elected Leaders Collective, you will learn to become a hashtag political healer, building the authentic, unshakable confidence and courage to stay true to yourself through the anger and pressure, while cultivating the open, empathetic mind to meet others with the curiosity, compassion, and kindness necessary to respond to threats, improve challenging relationships, de-escalate conflict, and bring people in your community together to solve real problems and get shit done. You'll reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm and become a more effective leader while having time for your family, yourself, your health, and your wealth, sleeping well at night, and showing others they can too. Now that's leadership. Healing Our Politics listeners receive 10% off all Elected Leaders Collective services using the code #PoliticalHealer. Use it today and become one of the brave political leaders healing our politics. Use code #PoliticalHealer by going to www.electedleaderscollective.com and starting today. That's www.electedleaderscollective.com and starting today. This is going to be my DJ Screw tribute because I'm going to speak at about 1/5 of my normal cadence. It's going to be the chopped and screwed version. I want to know how that was for you.
You know, it feels like it's in my purpose. It feels like it's in my, like, it's just who I am, is this body worker. And so what that feels like for me is, it feels like meeting another human being, putting my hands on you, and then feeling your body start to like tell a story, open and unwind and resist. And, you know, some movement patterns don't want to move and some of them do, you know, and I can only go so much, because if I go further than you want to, then I can create trauma or I can create a situation that you feel not improved from. You know, and so for me, it feels like this dance, and it's really what it feels like, is this dance of, you know, the tangible, you know, tools and the physiological application of what we're doing, and then the energetic opening and the unwinding and the slowing down, integrating.
Yes, and the international tango championships you've won. You are the lead dancer. And it is what it feels like. It's so far removed from a normal massage for me. When Jamie, my partner, came back into the apartment, and I know that I had flipped from my back to my stomach, and I was so disoriented. I literally didn't know which direction the entrance was. I was trying to piece back together my movements with a decoder ring, and I couldn't do it until I heard her voice close enough. But there are moments of absolute bliss and elation and relief, tension, awareness. Oh, what's that? I didn't know that was there. Moments where something I knew was there was revealed in a new way. Other moments where something was completely revealed to me. Dance is a good word. And I said this to your partner the other day, and this is true, but it just really reinforced that for me, is, you know, in the pantheon of body work or massage that I've had, and I've been lucky enough to have, you know, probably hundreds of sessions in my life, from a literal $3 back alley somewhere in Cambodia, no training, to, you know, Four Seasons, Viceroy, St. Regis, you know, high dollar place. And you and one other woman, there's two people that I met in my life that are just many standard deviations above that. The analogy for me is, I'm a pretty good recreational athlete. I've, you know, competed when I was younger. I've won a national championship. If I go out on skis, for instance, like, you'll find me any given morning going 60 miles an hour backwards down the hill through people. Most people would think I'm pretty good, but I'll go out and do a skimo race like I did the other week. And when I am 6 hours into the course, there are two gentlemen in this case who pass me doing a different sport than I'm doing. they're going to finish almost 6 hours ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
Big smiles on their face. They're hooting and hollering. Whatever they're doing, I've never tried that sport. And I'm pretty good. And like you and this woman are that level of standard deviation above a very high profile practitioner. And at least in my experience, the thing that sets you apart is that there are other people who can really get in and apply the work. I know that I'm going to feel better, move better afterwards. There are people that can make me feel really great. I don't know anyone other than you two that can do both of those at a 10 of 10 simultaneously. And it is that dance because I'll have the moment of like, uh-oh, is this going? And then you just have this innate feel. And I wonder how you came into that, how much is natural, how much was developed. Can you talk a little bit about how you acquired or continue to acquire that skill?
First, thank you. That's humbling. Truly. I'll tell a little bit about the story. I went to massage school and I knew I had to be a massage therapist. And I researched about 75 schools across the country to find the one I wanted to go to. And the one I wanted to go to taught us 12 different modalities of massage as a baseline, and then we could learn a few more.
Can you name them?
Of course. Structural integration, neuromuscular therapy, myofascial release, Western sports massage, Russian sports massage, Shiatsu, craniosacral hydrotherapy. We actually went into 2 levels of structural integration, but that really highlighted kind of the split between Rolfing and structural integration, but it really integrated the practice of fascial realignment. There was acupressure and we had a movement class, which is kind of an introduction to body mechanics. And proper body mechanics is really what set the foundation for the work that I'm doing. Because it's how do we align your body? How do I align my body? What feels good when I'm in alignment and what feels out when I'm in alignment. And then I navigate that, and I also give the massage that I would want to receive if I felt like that. So there's a lot of empathy in the process. But I came to that in massage school. And I remember the moment I came to it. It was in Shiatsu, and I was getting really frustrated because a lot of it is hand positions and holding your hand and holding their body in a certain way. And my hands are just too big to like let your head sit comfortably with my hands like this.
I'll just because this is a podcast, I'll offer a visualization. I am a 5'11", 6 foot on a good day, kind of normal athletic build individual, decently wide shoulders for my size. I'm not that tall. I can palm an NBA basketball, and Russ can cover my entire back simultaneously with his hands flat. And we did this yesterday. We went hand to hand, and he's probably got a half an inch on each finger on me. But if you were to turn our hands sideways like a deck of cards facing you, the thickness of his hand is probably double to 2.5 mine. So there is a significant appendage. There's like the biggest yucca you've ever held. If you were to drop that on your foot, that's like his hand without any muscle tension.
So there's that. And it got really frustrating trying to navigate like my hands and spatially with somebody else's body. And I remember trying so hard to get the technique right. And there was a moment where I got the technique right, but it was so awkward and uncomfortable. And I thought I needed to bring more care to this moment. I needed to cradle the thing I was working on instead of trying to get my hand position right. And it was like, that was the moment. I realized I wanted to give the massage I wanted to receive. And I needed to understand that everybody wants something different. And so I went into clinic, which was, we did 5 massages per 5.5 hour shift. And so it didn't give a lot of time to like reset, but it was in school, the real world application of this. And I just looked at that as an opportunity to find out what people like and what they feel and what they think and how it navigates and if it hurts too much and if it didn't, get it enough. And every massage became this experiment of providing for the needs and care of other people and their experience in their body.
And of course, there's a spectrum of human orientations. We're all different. And there are people that are just highly computational who tend to end up in jobs like coding, for instance. They don't have to, certainly, but they tend to. People who are highly feeling oriented who tend to end up as artists or performers. Do you, in my observation, have a strong sense of feeling and intuition about you? Do you think that is a prerequisite to be great at what you do?
No, not necessarily. I mean, yes, it's been a superpower of mine to be able to deeply feel and navigate and orient that way. But I do know some people that are very computational and very understanding about and this was actually me when I started out, really understanding the science behind how the body communicates and how it connects with itself and how it behaves in injury and what it needs to get out of injury. And so learning through, scientific method is literally just having a theory or a conjecture and then applying a methodology to it and seeing what happens. And so learning about the body and then applying it scientifically to the real world dance. So you can have both. You can be very analytical, very data-based and cognitive and still be really good at what you do.
So I want to understand some of the things that were happening, like on a technique basis. And I'll just pick some random ones out, but I also invite you to be like, if you had a moment that you noticed out there that was interesting and you'd want to share about that technique or what was going on, I think that would be very cool too. The first one that comes up is you were working in my kind of upper shoulder area. Memory serves, you were cradling my head and my shoulder. There was a stretch involved and it caused like a shooting light, almost like a lightning bolt, to run crosswise from above my ear down my neck to my back. And I thought at first you had like laid your hand on me in that area or like caught a fingernail because it felt so sharp. It took a minute to even realize that, oh, that's just a nerve sensation. And I wonder if you could speak to like, what are you doing there? How are you manipulating the body for what purpose? And was that an intended outcome or not? And what are we trying to get at with that type of technique or move?
Sure. The movement, I was cradling your head and then I had my thumb in your middle scalene, okay. Right? And that's a muscle in your neck on the side that helps with deep breathing, but also when somebody's in fight or flight or they're always thinking, that muscle gets activated and stays activated. And so a lot of times that the fascial structures can get really tight when it's always activated, right? Because there's no rest for it. And so the fascia doesn't have an opportunity to relax. So when it's that tight and we're stretching it, then all of the blood vessels, all the nerves, everything that's underneath it is also getting pushed on. And so we went through that fascial constriction and then right as it was releasing, it hit the nerve that was kind of impinged under the muscle. And so you felt the lightning. No, it wasn't intentionally trying to like work with the nerve. There are a couple of styles of body work that actually do that work with the nerve to help calm the nervous system. But that wasn't the intention of it. It was just working with the fascial constriction to get it to move a lot better. And sometimes, I mean, as long as I'm not digging into it and pushing it into the bone or pushing it into the other blood vessels, and I'm aware of where the endangerment zones are, then it's safe to work with nerves.
And there's another time where you had sort of, it seemed as though you were finishing I was on my back at that point. Finishing working on the leg and then made like a pulling movement, which caused the hip to pop, felt like this great release. and then went to the other side. It was like, doesn't work when you know it's coming. And it was a thing where when you did it, I knew you were going to go to the other side, and I really wanted it because it felt so good, and I couldn't help myself but resist. But could you talk a little bit about that type of movement, that popping or manipulation of the joints? What are we doing that for? Is that directed at a particular outcome?
The technique, it's really just about tractioning. If you think about that gravity and we're upright and we're always stepping and we're impacting our joints so much, how often are we actually decompressing the joints, right? And so whether it's through inversion tables or active stretching, partnered stretching, those are the same mechanics that kind of get that traction. And so as a practitioner, I've learned that when somebody either they say their leg is shorter, one leg's longer, or they feel more impacted, or their hips are a little bit askew, then doing that traction can kind of help everything to shift as a whole unit. And it's just to provide that relief. Your movement patterns are going to keep doing what they're doing. But I've learned as a practitioner, and this is just a secret, but don't tell anyone. But I find the one leg that feels long or that feels like it's impacted more, and that's the one I start with, because the second one, sometimes it does go. A lot of that has to do with the nervous system of the receiver. If you're really well versed in getting massages and you know how to decompress your muscles and how to relax and go with it, when you have a lot of massages under your belt consistently, then your body shifts the way that it receives that.
I'll have to invest in more practice.
Yeah. I will do what I can to help you.
At one point, you were working on my forearm and my hand, and I noticed a significant amount of resistance, what I would describe as crunchiness, almost as if there was a cellophane wrap inside of my forearm. Just was it AMR? Was it AMR? ASMR video in my forearm. And you offhandedly commented, "Hey, you type a lot. You use the computer and you don't stretch it." So I'd be curious to learn more about what you're doing there, that technique, but also for somebody like myself or like most of the people listening who do a lot of computer work, who do a lot of long form sitting, what are the common body presentations from that if we want to be healthier, more limber, better aligned, increase our health span, our lifespan as a result? What are the areas that you focus on most and people would be wise to considering focus on most, with whether it's someone doing work there or themselves in some way?
Well, because every body is so different, it's hard to say what could be standard. But I think if I take my experience, most of the times that forearm, you get a lot of, if you think about how you're holding your hands when you're typing or when you're working, you're always having some low level tension in your arms. And when you do that and you combine it with repetitive motion, then the body starts to seize those pieces or like adhere them so that the movement is easier for what you're training your body to do. Does that make sense? And so if I'm holding my hands up, then it's going to seize in the top part of my hand or the top part of my forearm, because those are the muscles that are constantly contracting.
I'll just say for your listening, when we say up, we don't mean raising your hand like a teacher. It's like if you were to place your forearm at parallel to the ground, let your hand droop, that would be down. Up is bringing it to attention, so it's slightly above the wrist so that you can type, if that makes sense.
Perfect. Thank you. It's helpful to have someone with experience with visually. Yeah. And so, just understanding that's a mechanic. Your arms are going to hurt if you don't put attention there. Things like stretching, taking breaks, really like active movement to go through the full range of motion of that is something you can do on your own, that will create a lot of longevity for your your joints and your hands and your tendons even, because when it's under that much pressure, a lot of inflammation can happen because the tension of the tendons under the tension of the fascial, binding under it, those can rub together. Whereas if you can reduce some of that tension, it's supposed to be fluid and just hold it.
Is there like a practice that you could suggest for someone who has 2 minutes in their office to release or something? Would it just be like a circular motion? Is there anything that you would do to avoid that buildup?
Contraction and expansion. A lot of people think that if you're holding your hands, at attention, right, that just dropping them from attention is enough, but it's not, because you actually have to go through the whole range of motion. So not just dropping the tension, but contracting the flexors, right? And so that gets the full, all of the tension out of that muscle, because it's going to its full stretch capacity versus its full contraction capacity. And you need both. And then the body operates within that spectrum of the two.
You're illustrating your own good work, because as you're doing that, again, if you imagine your forearm parallel to the ground and then you were to move your arm down, trying to reach the fingertips back to touch the forearm on the bottom side, you're touching it or damn near close.
Almost.
Yeah,
I'm helping it along too.
I'm about a foot past. Somehow mine's further than my hand. I'm just not my strong suit, but effectively the practice would be going as close to reverse touch and then all the way back up to full extension upwards, repeating the same side to side angulation and then encirclement left and right. And I mean, 2 minutes of that a day would probably keep the doctor away in a significant way.
Do the same thing with the other side. So do both of those simultaneously and see the difference that just one repetition did.
Yeah, I can feel a significant degree of more limberness in my right one after that. That's pretty remarkable to think about.
We can take I only have 2 minutes to do this. So, I guess 2 minutes is better than nothing. Really, it might take 2 minutes to get through your whole body, doing that 2 or 3 times, standing up, twisting your hips and like bending and moving your full capacity. Do a full roll down, squat down, stretch up, twist, and then you're back down. But as long as you're mindful and slow about it. The trouble with people with 2 minutes is they think they have 2 minutes, so they're trying to hurry up and get it all in. And that's when injury can happen, because you're not actually in relationship with the stretch and the contraction.
What's the long-term benefit? Like, I could put myself in the shoes of someone listening to this who is much like my younger self, who's working, 16 to 20 hours a day, highly motivated by the cause. I was like, I don't have fucking time for this bullshit. Like, I'm 20, I'm 30, I'm 40. Like, I'm not thinking about it, right? Other than, okay, I'll feel better in the moment. What do you see? Because you work with a lot of people. Let's focus on people later in life, 60s, 70s, 80s. What do you see in terms of outcomes that are different? Knowing everyone is, going to have a different presentation for people who, say, take the metaphorical or actual 2 minutes versus those who don't.
Oh, you can tell the people who are taking the 2 minutes in real time, because like your muscles are under a lot more tension when you're not taking the 2 minutes. It's like this constant drive, go. If your body doesn't have the ability to decompress that, it's very clear. And those are the people that get long-term chronic disabilities. And when I say disability, long-term chronic, like back pain, long-term chronic shoulder pain. It's like when we are out of alignment or out of touch with our bodies, with where they are in real time, taking that extra 2 minutes lets your body stay malleable, stay in motion, stay, stretched or aware of its capacity. If you're not taking the 2 minutes, think about what the mindset is like. The body's doing the same thing. Go, gotta keep going, gotta get the next thing, gotta do this, there's no rest, there's no decompress, there's no nothing. And if you're not taking that, there's only so long a hamster can run on a wheel without taking a break, without resetting and checking in with the environment.
You talked about the body telling a story. And I wonder, if I had said nothing, if I gave you no prep going in, just using me as the example, but would you be able to tell the story of my body? Could you say, this is what you've been doing or not doing? These are the areas where you need improvement. And how specific is that? Is it like, oh, your left leg seems tighter than your right, you might want to do some counterbalancing stretches? Or could you be like, it seems like you've been playing a lot of soccer, and I would consider switching your cleat size and doing this stretch before, and it'll benefit you in this way. To what level of specificity do you feel like you can use the body to tell the story?
I've learned to try to be less specific, just because I don't know if you're playing soccer or playing football or playing whatever. I can probably guess to a pretty high degree of certainty, like just based on your movement patterns and how your body is sitting just without your input. To me, lifting your leg, do you tense it up? Do you let me? Do you surrender it? Like, all of those things tell me a story of your body, your control, your ability to move your body, any like tension patterns. So, I mean, can you get to really specific stories about your body? Sure. And is that helpful to say that you're playing too much soccer? Is it more helpful to talk about your dominant leg and how to work with your dominant leg differently when you're playing soccer, so that you can create more balance in your body? Your left shoulder, there was a holding pattern in the left shoulder that you didn't know was there. And it actually, I don't know if it felt numb for you or what the sensation was in your body, but you were expecting the problem on the other side. And I found this thing on the left side that didn't actually feel sensational to you. But what I felt was that because of all of the compensation you're doing with the pain you're having in your right shoulder, it's almost like you're anchoring yourself with your left shoulder while you're in pain over here. And so while you're dealing with the pain over here, you're actually developing a holding pattern over here that's going to lead to pain, because you don't need to anchor it to deal with pain, but it's a human,
So let's use that as a starting example. Like, what would that inform you that I could do if I chose to differently to release or reverse that condition?
This is where because I'm not a get a massage every week kind of massage therapist, and I tell you to I don't tell you to get into a practice of it. I tell you to get it when you need it, right? And so dealing with that in real time, it's just about alleviating the tension and alleviating the holding pattern so that it can breathe. Bringing it to your attention might help it, but it also might put you on a spin where you're now aware of something you weren't aware of, that how much attention does it really need? And we don't know that because it probably feels pretty good right now.
It all feels really good right now.
Good.
I feel like the opposite of the hawk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Alive, put together, very content.
Beautiful.
What are I think this is actually fascinating. What are the other things, using my body as an example, that you learned? What did you notice throughout the massage in my physical form that stood out to you?
Aside from the sheer impressive quality of the muscular structure and nice. and the ability to push that.
Thank God it's a podcast. Otherwise, we'd all know this is bullshit.
Anyway. Yeah, we can talk about my integrative work a little later, but we'll let that one bypass. About your body specifically.
Yeah.
Your body seems very responsive. Like it's pretty sensitive. Probably means you have a lot of awareness of the sensations in your body, because when I'm pushing into your body like a fist in the hamstring, it fights back a little bit, and then it'll like vibrate a little bit, and then it'll start to release, right? And that's you and your body awareness, like just surrendering into the movement. That takes a certain level of, it's not just awareness, it's intelligence of how you can work with your body, because some people meet that resistance, they fight and push and go and can't relax and can't do it, and it's too much or whatever it is. But then if you're able to decompress or go into your muscles and kind of like have that conversation, you have that ability. So you have a sensitive system that's pretty responsive. So I could tell you that. What else could I tell you? Posturally, and actually I'll answer another question you asked, because this is with you as well. But posturally, most people, their head cranes forward, and I blame phones, I blame computers, I blame low desks, I blame a lot of things.
Note that as you said that, I straightened my neck up.
Yep. Yep. But it's true. It's like, we crane our heads forward, and a lot of people think that the remedy to that is to tilt it back like this. But all that does,
chin to sky.
Chin to sky, yeah. But what that does is it just kinks the other side. And so to truly bring your neck up, it's from here. You tuck or from hanging down where your forehead is looking towards your phone. If you imagine taking the phone away, look up, but tuck your chin in towards your jugular. And it's just that tuck right there actually creates a lot of length in the back of the neck. And it gets rid of what a lot of people call dowager's hump, that, C7 vertebrae that looks like it gets inflamed.
Micro camel kind of vibe.
Yep, depending on the person, it can be a macro camel. And you see it in older people as well. If they've had bad posture, their head hangs down. All of that tissue is there to try to keep the head up. And all you need to do is look up from the phone and tuck your chin and make sure it's sitting on top of your neck.
So that's something that you noticed that I could work on. Yeah.
Yep. And then to take it another step further, because it's a second thing, but it'll provide even more anchoring for the first. When you tuck that, the next thing is, a lot of people are really shallow breathers, right? And we don't move our ribs too much. We don't move super shallow mouth. Yep. And so one of the things that you do when you tuck your chin is you breathe into your high heart and you lift your high heart. Then when I say high heart, it's about 2 finger widths or 3 finger widths below the clavicle in the center of the chest. And when you lift it, just with your breath, don't like super tuck and try to force it, but you just you use your lungs to lift your chest to your chin. And it doesn't touch the chin, but it does create more space for breathing.
Sort of like if you're sitting up straight and you imagine doing like the Superman pose, but you're not allowed to extend your nipples outwards or your shoulders back. You just have to kind of do it all by raising the top. Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, but working with that, and it doesn't need to be in every breath or 2 minutes a day, but if you start feeling tension in your body, that's a remedy that can actually help you create space in the moment.
I'm going back to my younger self, the version of me that came from competitive athletics into campaign life, again, 16, 20-hour days, canvassing, so walking neighborhoods in dress shoes, and then sitting at a desk for hours and hours and hours. Everybody's bringing in free food. It's always the best health food that they bring in for free.
Of course.
Every kind of health pizza, health pasta, health cheese donut, health donuts, health coffee, all of the best nourishing foods. And I, like many people around me, gained a whole bunch of weight on that campaign, lost all sorts of muscle mass. I'm sure I reduced the intended form of my neck. What are some of the things that you would recommend, whether it's in getting body work or otherwise, could be anything, for people who are in those positions, who want to be in those positions, who feel grateful and lucky to be in those positions to affect change, but don't want it to impact their long-term health and body?
That's a big one because our bodies are impacted by routines that are suboptimal for our health. Like when I worked at a spa, same thing. They bring in the donuts and the cookies, and you'd think working at a spa would be healthier options, but that I digress. And that can take its toll when you are in your work and in your routine and in your life experience. And this might sound counterintuitive, but it's really about bringing the awareness of your body and like bringing fun, bringing, productive routines, rhythms, regimens into that work life. because it's not just the unhealthy foods. It's if you're super stressed, if you're constantly out of touch with your body and living in the mental creative plane, then your body suffers. Your body requires attention. And just putting some attention on it every day, or get a massage every week, or whenever you feel like, I get it about every 6 weeks, because that's about my cycle. I feel really great. I work out. I'm eating good. Life happens. I go through the challenges, and then maybe I'm eating pizza or burgers or nachos or, Mexi-Cokes or whatever my poison is of the moment. And then it's the stress that led me to those. And then those create that negative feedback loop that now you're at work eating the health, or eating the reward, while you're not feeling like you're doing the work that it requires reward. Bringing an element of either fun, joy, care, self-care, self-practice. It has to be infused into your daily. Because if it's not, you do lose touch with your body, and you lose touch with how it feels. So one day you wake up and you slept wrong and you cricked your neck, when in reality is your neck was starting to crick about 4 days before it.
I can relate to that in a different way, which is like caffeine consumption. I have had such vacillations in caffeine consumption over my life. And when I was in that mode of office with free coffee all the time, I was probably having 10 to 20 cups of coffee a day. And I would have told you caffeine doesn't affect me. Go to sleep right away. Well, when I took 6 months from not drinking caffeine, half a cup of coffee made me a nervous, jittery, anxious wreck. And having vacillated back and forth multiple times, that is a reliable shift. I can get to the point of just thinking it's normal because I'm not paying attention to it. I don't understand it, but it's not normal and it is affecting me. So what I'm hearing you say is like, A, work with what is, have some fun, bring some play into your existence, but use that as an anchor to develop awareness so that you know what's right and wrong with your body, and then find a degree of support that serves that. Maybe every 6 weeks as a baseline is something great. But you get to figure that out at your own pace, but plan ahead and budget for that. Work with that. Is that about right?
That is exactly right. I couldn't have said it better myself.
So what I'd really like to begin to end on is helping those who are listening find the resources, the practitioner, the practices that are right for them. Earlier on, we were talking about the 12 types of massage that you were trained in. I noticed that there are a whole realm of Eastern modalities that weren't included in that. I imagine you've done some training in that thereafter. But can you walk us through what modalities I would look for in which situations?
It really depends on your frame of reference and what you want to get out of your massage when you're looking at practitioners. Because there's some people that are a little bit more like grounded medical massage oriented that can work with like the physiological stuff that's happening. And so if it feels right or resonant for you to take that approach, looking for myofascial release, looking for structural integration, Rolfing, those are some more advanced techniques that people get trained in that help them fine-tune their understanding of the body. And that's really what it is. You want to find practitioners who are curious, open, and learning with you, and also in the practice of giving.
Just to like hone in on those, myofascial release versus Rolfing, what would be some of the key distinctions? And how would I know if Rolfing is for me or not, for instance? And then if you could expand that to other techniques or approaches.
Sure. Rolfing is a really deep, it works with the fascial layers of the body, but it's about a deep, slow applied pressure in many directions to open up fascial constriction. That can be for type A personalities, for people that have a lot of tension in their bodies. Rolfing can be really cathartic. It can really scratch the itch of having somebody applying a lot of pressure and moving through the restrictions. There's some people that prefer a more gentle approach. Myofascial release is that. It's holding the fascia in a stretch or on a couple of different planes so that it can open, and then allowing the fascia to just breathe and move on its own while the client is breathing. And so you find it's a gentler approach that's a little bit more stretching, a little bit more movement oriented, whereas Rolfing is quite a bit more technical and can be a bit more aggressive.
And then you had mentioned, I'm just doing this from memory, but Shiatsu, sports massage, I think, I don't know if deep tissue is something you said, or something in my head, maybe Swedish. Now I'm just pulling things from spa pamphlets. But I guess walk me through, in whatever way you think, but whether it's I'm looking for X experience, I would focus on this, or you might just catalog them and say, this is kind of what this is about, and these are some of the reasons you may pursue that type of body work.
We'll start with Swedish massage, understanding what that is. It's a basic massage that applies 5 different types of touch that is all about helping the body to relax, helping the body to release stress, right? And then you get deep tissue, which is kind of like a Swedish massage, only deeper. It's if you like more pressure, if that helps you relax more, where some people, it helps them relax to have a lighter touch. So getting a Swedish massage is when you're in the mood for a light to moderate touch, a more fluid experience. It's think of the traditional spa massages. Deep tissue is that with a bit more pressure. Shiatsu, when you get into Shiatsu, you get into myofascial release, neuromuscular therapy, you get into those modalities, it's a lot more pinpointed, a lot more accurate. And so because of that pinpointed nature, if you're looking for pain relief, Swedish massage might not be what you're looking for, and deep tissue might be too aggressive. So doing something like myofascial release, or if they're trained in injury massage or sports massage, those modalities can be a little bit more focused on the pain in the body versus relaxing or relieving stress.
What about Eastern modalities? So whether that's Thai massage or Ayurvedic techniques, I don't even know which questions to ask because I'm sure there are a number of practices I've never heard of. I think of, reflexology, for instance. What is that sort of universe about, and how might one approach it if that's something new to them, or should they, or would they?
Should you or would you? Sure. I'm a geek when it comes to massage, and so getting as much massage as I can, learning as much about it as I can. Like it's like pizza. There's touch that doesn't scratch the itch, but it's still pizza. It's still touch, And so going and getting a Shiatsu massage out of curiosity is really great. And if you're trying something new, letting the practitioner know it can be an educational opportunity. I actually use my massages as educational opportunities sometimes, just to learn what they're doing, what the technique is, why they're doing it, what they're feeling, and those kinds of questions, although it's disruptive to a relaxing, stress relieving experience, because usually you want silence and just be in the energy of, relaxing, taking care of yourself. So if that's what you want to do, trying something new without asking can be really great. And if you really have a curiosity about why these things work, or what the theories behind it are, what the history of it is, asking the practitioner is a really good step. And it's also a good way to interview their knowledge base, because if somebody knows what they're talking about, even if they're not explaining every little muscle or every little nerve, or if they're not diving into all of that, but you can tell they know what they're talking about and they've put the time in, that's a practitioner that is worth building a relationship with.
That's kind of what I want to next talk about, which is how do you find the practitioner or practitioners that are right for you? For you, obviously, you have a network built over decades, you know who's there. But if you were to put yourself back in the shoes of not having that, like you couldn't rely on anyone you knew, you got plopped down in a random city you had never been before, there's nobody in your phone book, and you have to go find a practitioner, how would you do that? What would you be looking for in an advertisement? What sort of keywords or phrases would be indicators of interest versus like, ooh, that's a red flag. And then how would you engage with that person to understand prior to the session and get a good sense of if they're going to be right for you or not?
A lot of it is just the languaging that they use in their advertisements. I'll take it back to when I first started doing massage. I was working at a little spa in Salt Lake City. I was working at a gym, and then I did a stint at kind of like a country club in the city in Salt Lake, and I was doing massages all over the place. And how could you find me? It's if you're asking athletes, ask people who they use. You can call your local ballet company who they use for massages. You can call your local soccer team. You can you can look into and ask people that would know who they use. That's usually the best way to find those kinds of referrals. If you really don't know anybody or anything, start at Massage Envy. They seem to be an entry level space for massage therapists to get some experience. And there's a lot of gold there. If you can find the person with the right touch and they feel like, they don't take you beyond your edges, or they listen to you in what you're experiencing in your body, that's the practitioner you want. Somebody with experience who can listen and understand.
So I love that you brought up Massage Envy, because that was going to be kind of a follow-up, which is there certainly are, and sorry, Massage Envy, that I'm making you the rough in this analogy with diamonds in the rough.
Sean.
Right. And that's not a critique. It's great to be able to have an approachable massage that's, guaranteed to be safe and consensual and relatively affordable and around the corner. Like, it serves its function. But to your point, I imagine most of the people working there, it's their first job or something like that. They've done their training, but there are future yous there. If you are going to take that route, is it just trial and error? Do you have to get a massage with sort of everyone and just determine by feel and experience? Or are there ways to know prior to booking a higher degree of likelihood of success with one person at some place like a Massage Envy or not?
Yeah, first I will shout out Massage Envy, because a lot of people have gotten a lot of really good work and have had a lot of good experience in that space. And absolutely try everybody. It's why you start at Massage Envy, because they are on the cheaper option. And when you start talking to the massage therapists and getting to know their network, you can actually find referrals that way. You can really ask a lot of questions. Massage therapists are usually trying to help. And we understand that not everybody's for everybody. And so if you come in and you go see everybody in a month and go find the person you like and start building there.
So I want to talk price expectations and kind of hacks. And I say that because, for instance, I live in a town that well, where it's not uncommon for a standard off-the-shelf massage to be $200 an hour. And that's not available to someone like myself, really, or to most people. But the gym in town, JR, shout out Jean Robert, they run a massage training school in off-season. And so for a couple weeks a year, you can go get like a $59 massage and be in fairness and reciprocity, because they're students, and that means that it's a little bit more of a roll of the dice. But to me, that's a great hack to get an affordable massage in a place that wouldn't be affordable. So what are sort of the constraints on pricing? What should people expect? What should they expect for their money? So say going to A1 equivalent in our town, which is like Chinese foot massage, turn and burn. They giggle at you as they dig their elbows into your feet, saying no pain, no gain, which I love, by the way.
Everyone does. That's why they were so successful.
To someone like yourself. And I know you don't talk about your client list, and I'm not saying this is your client list, but if we found out you're working with Oprah and Deepak Chopra, I'd be like, yep, that makes sense. And if they're not, they should be. So y'all need to get on that, because
I'd make space in my schedule for them.
Yes, that's what you would say, to not let us know you're doing it. It's fine. Well, yeah. So pricing. What should we expect? What are the ranges, and what tricks or hacks might you have for someone who wants bodywork, but truly just doesn't have the resources for a higher dollar experience?
Yeah, the price ranges are everywhere. I live in New York City, and so we'll go from like the $45 places that you're going to just get massage. You're going to get the body rub. It's not a personalized experience. They're not there to care for you and your body. They're just there to apply the technique. Mm-hmm. And if you're paying somewhere between 25 to, I hate to say it in this day and age, but $65, $70 an hour, it's about what you're looking at, mm-hmm. And if you think about high-end spas, even if they're charging $200, they're paying their therapist, you're getting about $120 massage, and so I hate to think of it in terms of that, but my brain likes to do that. And so there is an element of, you pay for experience and you get what you pay for. So in a higher end experience, there is more care, more attention, more intentionality around like preparing the space for you. And so I think the $45 to $65 an hour, like those kinds of places, it's really the place to go and receive the standard just body work. Mm-hmm. If you're going for more specialized care, you should be prepared to pay for somewhere between $150 to $300 for, a session. Mm-hmm. And that's for strictly body work. Yeah. And then solo practitioners coming to your home, like that's a completely different market as well. Mm. When you find the students or you find the at the Massage Envy, or you find the human being who provides the care, building a relationship with that human being. I've had people come to the spa at the St. Regis and they get, spa massages as well as in-home massages. It's a completely different life. But with this, if you're going to Massage Envy and you're paying the $60 a massage, and you find somebody who has that, and you can have that relationship, and you feel like they're helping your body with every session, you can take that outside of, Massage Envy, but you can take that outside of Massage Envy. And if you're paying $80 there, but you find your guy and it's worth 100 and whatever your budget is, 100, 120, or even if it's 85, asking them if they'd be willing to come to you, or asking them, or asking them their availability so that you can plan your schedule around it. Like those are all things that you can do. It's about finding the practitioner. Mm. And the only way to do that is through relationship and through trial and error. I've spent tens of thousands of hours and dollars going and getting massages and trying to find my person, or my people. And I'm grateful to be blessed with such a big network of massage therapists that are all over the country. And, if I'm dropped in the middle of somewhere I don't know, like I was in New York City, it probably took me about 3.5 years to find my regular massage therapist.
So strap in. What I really appreciate.
It is tax deductible though these days. So that's actually good to know.
That is good to know. Tell me more about that.
Tax deductible self-care. You can actually, the care that you put in your body for your work, you can actually deduct. And so using this as a maintenance for your body, massage therapists and clients who do write off their massages.
Okay, so you're now speaking to an HR director at a municipality, and this person is interested in providing a higher degree of care for their employees, and they want to include massage or body work in their EAPs, their employee assistance programs. Do you know what they have to do? Do you know the details of how they would file or catalog that in such a way that this would be permitted above board and pass the finance department?
Having been out of the corporate structure for close to 14 years, my answer is no.
Look it up.
Look it up.
But it's great to know that that's available.
Yeah.
Really is. And I want to go back to something you said earlier, which is if you're getting a $200 massage at a resort, you're getting a $120 massage. And I just think that's something important to highlight. And there's nothing wrong about that, but it's like you have to know your preferences. Mm-hmm. Because if what you really want is deep body work, then you are much better served investing every dollar into that with a direct relationship to a practitioner. However, you might get and derive great value from relaxing, being in a comfortable space, having somebody hand you a glass of champagne, just having a warm pillow or a water bath, hot tub sauna to go into before or after, which is fine. But recognizing that in that example, $80 of it is going towards those amenities. And so being intentional about what matters to you going in and choosing and selecting your therapist, body worker, and location based on those, I'm hearing is really critical.
Yeah. And I actually want to disrupt a little bit too, because when you're paying that kind of money for a session, you should be pretty clear about your preferences. Mm-hmm. And if what you're receiving isn't actually scratching that itch and you're giving feedback and not receiving what you're asking for, there is actually nothing wrong with providing direct feedback to the therapist and either ending the session or going and getting support, finding a new practitioner. That's all within spa operating protocols to find a practitioner for somebody. And it might be later and it might be another day, but, it gives you the recourse to keep the journey going. And also, speaking egoically as a massage therapist, it's really hard to think I do a bad job. Because most people get off the table and they feel relaxed and they go off, and sometimes I see them again and sometimes I don't. But if I'm not hearing directly that I didn't give you what you needed, or that, I did something that wasn't quite on the mark, if I'm not getting that feedback, I have a 20-year career of not getting that feedback. And so, fortunately, I try to be conscientious and evoke the feedback, but also understanding as a client going to a practitioner, they only know what you tell them. And if it's fine, and if you get through it and you're never going back there again, but they don't know that, then you just get upset on the journey. They don't get the feedback or the education to further their skills and their education, because as a practitioner, every client is a new education. It's a new opportunity to learn a nuance.
So love to elaborate a little bit on how best to provide feedback, when there are particular ways in which you should, how direct or not would you want someone to be? Because I'm imagining there's many people that get off the table, how was the massage? Oh, it was great. And in their head, they're going, oh, I'm never going back there again. But also on the table, there would be an opportunity to improve. It may not be that this person who's providing the massage or the body work doesn't have the capability, but maybe they're just doing something other in their scope of practice, where with some requests, they could shift to another pre-existing point of practice that would be better for the client. So yeah, how should people think about providing feedback?
I'm going to start with the basic, and I'm going to shout out my beloved for this one, because she's really good at it. Beginning with something that you like, either the speed, the pressure, the amount of oil, something that you like about what they're doing. And then asking for the shift you want, that speed feels really good. Could we try it a little deeper, or could I get about twice the pressure, and just, you can be specific about the ask, and if they're giving you the pressure, and if you ask for more and they can't do more, you get to decide if that's enough for you to receive and relax, or if it's not worth it, but once you're off the table, your opportunity for a good experience is gone, because you've spent that whole time receiving what you don't want to receive. So if you're feeling uncomfortable, or you're feeling like a shift needs to be made for you to really feel like you're getting something out of it, and usually it's pressure, or usually it's more focused attention on a certain area, making those asks, understanding that this human being is in a flow that they've maybe done 100 times, maybe 10,000, maybe, 45,000, but they only know what you tell them. And so if they're in their flow and they're getting done with your glute and it feels like it needs more attention, and you can say, hey, can we spend a few more minutes there? Understand you might not get your feet rubbed. Does that make it a bad experience? No.
I really like the specificity piece, like, because I've said more pressure, please. Well, what does more mean? But 40% more, 50% more. Can you double that? Can you make me cry? Can you crack the egg that is my head? Right.
I used to love the people that came in and just looked at me and said, just kick my ass. And I'd say, are you sure?
Have you seen me?
And then they say yes. And then I tell them, the safe word is stop. And then we go.
That's awesome.
You get specific.
Okay. So now someone's had their massage, and this is going to sound like a very obtuse question, but how do they evaluate whether it was good or not? And the way I mean that is we only know what we know. Someone may have no idea that there is massage or body work of a different kind available, of a higher degree of pleasure available. And so how would you counsel people to evaluate the work that they've had to determine if they should continue, shift, up level, or provide feedback?
Being really intentional and setting goals at the outset of your session is a really good thing, even if it's an intention for yourself. I just want to turn my brain off for an hour. If you have that goal going in, it doesn't really matter what they do for that hour. If you got to turn your brain off, it was a good experience, right? If you're feeling like you want to, you have a crick in your neck or it's not quite moving right, and you set an intention that that's what you want to focus on. Setting those intentions, the personal ones, turning your brain off, just relaxing or receiving is usually mine because that's been the hardest one. So my intention is to go in and receive. Then whatever they do, as long as it feels good or as long as it doesn't hurt me or as long as they're listening to the feedback, then it's a good experience. It's I use the same metric with Airbnb hosts when I go stay at Airbnbs. I expect that there's going to be problems with every house. And it's the responsiveness of the human being to the problems that arise. And if I'm saying something and they're not making the adjustment or they're not hearing me or it's not quite clicking, that I feel like is a bad experience or not a great experience. Like I said, I don't want to say it's bad experience. Touches, unless it's violating or unless it's, something that's egregious or causing injury, by and large, most human beings are just touching you to try to make you feel good.
Yeah, like you said, it's like pizza. Yeah. There's great pizza, exceptional pizza, and functional pizza.
Yeah, dollar slices of toast.
And I hate to say this, New York, but I had some functional pizza last night. Chicago boy calling you out.
I'm not from New York.
All right, Russ, this has been really, really fun. And I think very instructional, kind of demystifying and detangling something that can be very opaque for people and, known, but not really understood. I'm hoping that this will help not only individuals, but also organizations. I love that thought that, hey, this can be something that your organization can provide. I think that's really beneficial. Where do people find you? If they wanted to work with you, if they wanted to just connect, whether that's for Bodywork, Russ Wisdom, you run a retreat center in upstate New York. How do people wayfind to you? Websites, social media, anything like that?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. You can find me on the internet at russellpappas.com. I try to make it really easy to find me. It's RussellPappas.com. Russell Pappas on Instagram, Russell Pappas on Facebook. And I'd love to help people in transformational spaces. And like you said, we run a retreat center. I do body work all over the country. And so you can connect with me there. If you're interested in working with me or you're interested in exploring some of these topics, I do offer sessions and consults to collaborate. And so you can book that right on the website.
You will truly not be disappointed. It is insane. Final question, same to every guest, which is, our listeners are not passive observers. These are the proverbial humans in the arena. Old Teddy Roosevelt quote. And if you were to leave them with just one thing, one thought, one quote, one practice, one approach, one anything that would best resource them to personally be a vector for healing our politics, what would you leave them with?
Individual space is really important. And having enough space for yourself where there's no pressure, no expectation, nothing wrong, nothing to do is really important. And as a high-functioning gladiator in the arena, that's something that only you can give yourself. And I tell all of my clients, just start with 10 minutes. Set an alarm for 10 minutes and just sit there, just quietly feeling yourself. And if thoughts come, let them go. And if something comes that really needs to be worked with, be proud of the human who's showing up and doing it. Because for every gladiator, there's a million observers.
Oh,
thank you so much for this, Skippy.
Yeah.
This was brilliant to talk to you and to get it recorded and to really dive into this, to also work with you and to share my work. This is why I live and this is what I do.
I look forward to the next one and wish you a beautiful journey and trip.
Thank you, my friend.
All
off
right,
to
brother.
Peru.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to put what you've heard here today into practice, sign up for our newsletter, The Leader's Handbook, where each month you'll receive just one email with a curated selection of the most useful tools and practices discussed on this podcast today and over the course of the last month, delivered in simple how-to worksheets, videos, and audio guides, so you and your teams can try and test these out in your own life and see what best serves you. And lastly, if you want to be a vector for healing our politics, if you want to do your part, take out your phone right now and share this podcast with 5 colleagues you care about. Send a simple text, drop a line, and leave the ball in their court. Because the truth is, the more those around you do their work, the better it will show up in your life, in your community, and in your world. Have a beautiful day. The Healing Our Politics podcast is brought to you by the Elected Leaders Collective, the first leading and most highly recognized name in mental health, well-being, and performance coaching for elected leaders and public servants, designed specifically for you. Now, don't be fooled by the name. The Elected Leaders Collective is not just for elected leaders. It is for all public servants, staffers, volunteers, government, nonprofit, whole organizations. This is for you. If you are filled with passion for improving your community and world, but are tired, as I am, of the anger, stress, and vitriol, if you find yourself banging your head against that same wall, struggling with the incoming criticism and threats, arguing with colleagues who are supposed to be on your team, and questioning if it's even worth it anymore, then the Elected Leaders Collective programming is specifically for you. With the Elected Leaders Collective, you will learn to become a hashtag political healer, building the authentic, unshakable confidence and courage to stay true to yourself through the anger and pressure, while cultivating the open, empathetic mind to meet others with the curiosity, compassion, and kindness necessary to respond to threats, improve challenging relationships, de-escalate conflict, and bring people in your community together to solve real problems and get shit done. You'll reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm and become a more effective leader while having time for your family, yourself, your health, and your wealth, sleeping well at night, and showing others they can too. Now that's leadership. Healing Our Politics listeners receive 10% off all Elected Leaders Collective services using the code #PoliticalHealer. Use it today and become one of the brave political leaders healing our politics. Use code #PoliticalHealer by going to www.electedleaderscollective.com and starting today. That's www.electedleaderscollective.com and starting today.